Hey, there's a chick on my app.
All right, I'm just saying women aren't meant to fight. They have tiny, hollow bones.
Don't you think you're doing a lot of genderizing?
What?
Don't be a pussy. Join Cobra Kai.
I was a natural cobra.
Hello and welcome back to the Queen Cobra podcast. I'm really excited. Today is part 2 of our character analysis series, and we're going to be talking about Robby Keene, arguably the most complex of any of the young characters and of any of the older characters with the exception of Kreese. And I'm just really excited to dive into Robby's character. He is someone that has just been through so much over the course of these 3 seasons, and he's only set to go through even more trials and tribulations in season 4, and my heart aches for this young kid, and I truly root for him, which you will see as we go through this entire episode, like how much my heart lies with poor Robby. I am team Robby all the way, and I just want to see him succeed, and that'll be very clear as we dive into his analysis a little bit more. But we are going to be looking at the psychological side and the reasoning behind some of his decisions, his trauma. And so if, this is a little bit of a warning for anybody who could get triggered by those things, please, if it's going to upset you, offend you, please don't watch. I encourage only anybody who wants to hear this discussion to move forward in it. And by no means am I an expert on trauma or anything of the sort. I enjoy having conversations about psychology and about the mental state of different characters and analyzing them that way, but I'm not a mental health expert, not even a mental health specialist. I consider myself more of an enthusiast, if anything. And the same goes with my guest host, who I am so excited to introduce to you all today. He's absolutely amazing. He does great things on his own account, and I'm just so excited to let you guys see him really dive into an analytical side of a character, because once you see him, you'll know that, we're more used to the humor side of him. And today is going to be a really intense, really deep conversation about this character. So without further ado, well, round 2, now we're talking about Robby, and I'm really excited to bring in a brand new special guest host, Mike, who runs the Cobra Kai Wisdom Instagram account, full of really insightful, funny, just like hilarious memes. So I'm glad that you're here to dive into this with me.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was looking for a Robby expert, and I thought, who has more knowledge than Cobra Kai Wisdom, right? Like, it's all in your name.
He brings the wisdom. Yes.
Just bring the wisdom. So I figure who better, to have on as a guest host talking about, as you're saying off camera here, the most complex character in the series, possibly?
He really is. There's a lot going on there in that head of young Robby Keene, and it really develops a lot from season to season. And I think you could do a character development of each season of Robby Keene. You could do one for season 1, one for season 2, one for season 3, and Lord even knows where that poor kid is going to go in season 4. But there's no shortage of things to talk about with him.
Yeah, we're going to get to season 4 eventually, talk about, where we think his character might go. Obviously, all of it is prediction and opinion. So,
yeah.
Fair warning, we are not experts and we don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to take our best guesses. But as you said, like each season could have its own, we could do our own episode on each season on, where his head's at and the development that he goes through. So just kind of starting from the beginning, when we first meet Robby, he is a very different kid than we see throughout most of the series. And a lot of that is coming from the trauma that he's experiencing in his home life. So I want to just kind of break that down a little bit. Obviously, he's being raised in a single parent household. His mom is there, but not there. And we get a lot of drama between him and Johnny in the coming seasons, but prior to, the start of Cobra Kai, he almost never saw Johnny.
That's what we're led to believe. We don't know specifically what happened in the first 16 years of his life. But like you said, there's lots of clues. The fact that Johnny just wasn't there. It doesn't appear that there was any type of fighting. Johnny never laid a hand on him, obviously, anything like that. He wasn't mean to him or drunk with him. He just wasn't there. And it was the absence of Johnny that fueled this anger that is persistent in the 3 seasons that we've seen so far. Because you're right, Robby's mother wasn't all there herself. She
Right.
had her own set of issues and problems, but she was at least there. She was physically there and was there when he broke his wrist and was there when he got mono, and
As she likes to remind Johnny.
which is true. She's would be the first to admit that she's got her issues and her problems, which she does, but she was at least there, gave him a roof over his head, gave him food on his plate, and genuinely loved him.
Yeah,
in
you
her
know what?
own
I
way.
pride her on her decision to go to rehab, as much as it probably weighed on Robby that he was going to have to spend more time alone. Like, she knew he was in a safe place. She knew he was being taken care of, and she decided to go get herself the help she needed. So I commend Shannon on her development throughout the seasons.
Sure.
Yeah, when we do first meet him, like, there's so much anger, resentment towards Johnny, and I think probably some abandonment issues and some kind of longing to have that father figure in his life. I think he wanted it. He was forced to be the parent in his house. He was kind of raising himself with his mom in and out. And so he was forced to grow up and to take on a lot of extra responsibility that no 15, 16-year-old should be taking on.
Yeah, and I really like the way they introduced him. You don't meet him until this short little scene in season 1, episode 2, the phone call with the principal. And it's so quick, and the way it's played off, he comes off like a jerk. He's sitting there with the attitude, gets on the phone, calls his dad a worthless loser. And this is the first that we even know that he has a son. Except that there is that picture of some kid when he's younger, and there's a mentioning of him. But this first time we see him, and calls him a worthless loser and hangs up the phone, and then his scene is over, and then we don't see him for another 2 episodes. So to us, it's like, whoa, what is this kid's problem? What is this history that we don't know about? And then it goes back to the Miguel training, and then we kind of forget about him until episode 4, when suddenly he's in the very first scene, and we get to know him a little better and see what his deal is. And it's pretty fascinating. He's clearly very bright. He's a smart guy. He's friendly, he's charming, but he's a little con man.
Yeah.
The first time we see him is him being a criminal and stealing a laptop for his 2 criminal friends. That's our first meeting of him. So we're not sure.
Something to take note of about Trey and Cruz too is that they are older. Again, kind of bringing up that whole thing about looking for an influential male figure in his life. Like, that was Trey and Cruz for what seems like a while. You don't know how long, but at least for whatever length of time, they were his like older male influence. They were his father figure, which is kind of sad to think about.
It is. And you can see even at the very beginning that he has a little bit of conflict within him when they try to cheat the other 2 people out of that laptop, and he says, well, what about the other 2? And then they say, well, sucks for them, and then he just goes along with them. But you can see, okay, he's doing these deeds, but he's not like these people. He does care about other people. He's somewhere in there is a good person. He's just not acting like it yet.
A good person itching to get out, itching to be brought out.
It's down there somewhere.
And we get a lot of like how he feels about his dad, how he feels about his mom. Like, we see that in his actions and in his words. And But my question for you, and it's totally your guess is as good as mine, but how does he feel about himself at the start of this series? Because I don't think he looks at himself very highly.
I would agree with that. I think he is just so filled with hatred for his dad. And he doesn't hate his mom, but he's not happy with the situation with his mom. He knows what's going on because he's a smart guy. So he, as a lot of kids, I think, do with parents who are in that situation, blames himself to some extent. Well, maybe if I was a better kid, my dad would have been here. I have to be to blame to some extent. Maybe if I did more or did better in school, my mom wouldn't drink so much or go partying with guys. And that's a 16-year-old mentality. And we get the sense that this is not something new to him being 16. This is probably how he grew up, with nobody for a very long time. So it would be only human to say, well, I must have done something. I must have bared some responsibility for this. And here I am hanging out with two criminals. I know it's wrong, but I'm doing it anyway because I got nothing else going on. So I'm going to do Molly. I'm going to drop out of school and no one cares. So if no one else cares, what do I care for? And that's a tough situation to be in at 16.
Right. And I imagine a younger version of Robby, kind of like you said, blaming himself and trying to prove to his parents that he's worth caring about. So I see a younger Robby actually doing really well in school, being very well behaved growing up. And as he gets to that middle school age and in the early high school age, starting to realize that no matter what he does, no one's caring and no one's there, and giving up. And that's kind of probably when he met Trey and Cruz, and they probably have a lot of the same stuff going on. They probably have a single parent or divorced parents, or they probably had something similar to him, and that drew him into them, and he got sucked in because no one cared and no one was there to stop him. And that was where his mind kind of went. But I do see a younger him trying really hard to make someone care. And that makes me so sad for him. And as we go through this, everybody will see how much I root for Robby. Because I feel so bad for him. Even at the beginning when he's being a jerk, it's like you said, you could see little hints of him not, knowing that it's not really what he wants to be doing. So definitely
you're right.
For him from the start.
Our only inkling of him before we meet him is that one magnet picture on Johnny's refrigerator when he's on the soccer team in 2010, I think it was. And he's, it's a little tanner and he's got a big old smile on his face. He's on the soccer team. So you're probably right. There probably was a time of innocence for him when he grew up and didn't know any better. So he was happy. But as he started to become a teenager and look around, we see he's starting to realize what his life was. And we know we would learn later on, he did some artwork with his mom and his dad. So to what extent Johnny was around at all, it is unclear. We do know that even though Johnny wasn't around, Robby knows about his father, because that's another one of the first big confrontations between the two of them when he makes that snap, like your old pal Daniel LaRusso.
Yeah.
He knows some of his dad's history. He knows, if I'm going to hurt my dad, that's the way to do it. Mention Daniel LaRusso.
Right.
So whether he learned about it on the internet, whether his dad told him, his mom told him, he somehow knows his father and knows how to get at him. And he has no problem doing that and just insulting him and making him feel terrible the way he perceives Johnny has made him feel.
Right.
And you see it in his eyes. So every time he looks at Johnny in season 1, it's just that anger, that stare, and you wonder, because it's only season 1, like, what did Johnny do to this kid that he just hates him with every fiber of his being?
I don't even know if it's hate. Like, he's acting like he hates him, but he's just trying to hurt Johnny as badly as Johnny hurt him, I think. And a lot of kids do that, and it's totally totally teenage kid energy to find the one thing that will like pick at your parents when you're mad at when you feel like they've wronged you, and you
Oh
just
yeah.
throw it in there, and you're like with Daniel LaRusso, like just throwing it out there just to kind of get at your parents. And I do think that he's just trying to hurt him the way that he feels like he's been hurt. And I think a key moment where we see that is when he goes to see Johnny, because he gets this little bit of hope that Johnny actually cares about him, and he goes to see him, and Johnny is there outside the dojo with Miguel, giving him the gi and hugging him. And I think Robby just wants to feel chosen,
Yeah.
and every time with Johnny he is let down. And so his first thought is, I'm gonna go to Daniel LaRusso, and I'm really gonna get my dad chose somebody else over me. I'm gonna go choose his worst enemy over him.
Yeah, and he doesn't even know Daniel LaRusso. They've never met. He doesn't know. All he knows about this guy is that his father hates him, and he goes through the trouble of getting a job to be his employee just on the off chance that his father finds out and loses his shit, as he says. He just wants to get him that much. But we do get some inklings that he cares. Like you said in that episode 5, he shows up at the Cobra Kai dojo. What would he have done? What would he have said if Miguel wasn't there? What was his intent with showing up there? Was it to try to make amends?
He wouldn't have gone to Daniel if he didn't care. That's the thing, is this whole time is he cares so much, and he's just trying to be louder, to be, to make Johnny notice him. And however he can do that, and the best way he could think of doing that is by going to Daniel. But you're right, what I think he was going to try to make amends. And there are so many times where we see Robby do something like that, where you think he's going to make amends and he just has bad timing. He walks in at the wrong moment.
Well, this is a whole show of bad timing, and you can talk about that with many characters in many situations. That, if he had just come a minute later, none of this would have happened, but then we wouldn't have the show. But you're right. We do see a lot of the conflict within him. Like when Shannon casually mentions that she bumped into Johnny and that he had mentioned the idea of Robby living with him, and she kind of blows it off. And he was like, wait, why do you think he didn't mean that? As if like something went off. Like he actually showed interest in me. He's interested in that.
He was going there to go explore that interest and to go see if Johnny actually wanted him. And if Johnny wanted him, I'm convinced that Robby would have been living there. Like if that had gone well, it'd be a totally different story.
Yeah, or he would have been Johnny's second student, or they would have at least had some type of civil relationship that he could be a confidant or someone that he could go to. It's hard, but instead he goes over to LaRusso Auto, gets the job, and he does it with the intent of hurting his father, but in the process, he meets the mentor that he's been looking for all along, completely unexpectedly. And it's probably the first hook and twist that the Big Three does, having Johnny Lawrence's son become Daniel's first student in the show, at least. And it's wonderful the way that plays out, that you see the distrust at first, but it's like, okay, you haven't thrown me out. You haven't told me to go to hell. You're the first person who's walked out the door to chase after me and say, stop, come back. No one's ever done that for me before. I'll give you a chance and let's see what's up. Maybe you're not as bad as my father thought.
Yeah, I think I agree. There's so much distrust in adults, and especially in male adults, for Robby early on. And Daniel is the first person to show him like any kind of care and nurturing and teaching. And it's just exactly what Robby has been looking for and didn't know that he had been looking for. And he obviously gives up on Trey and Cruz and says, well, this is the dad that I wanted. I want to please him and I want to make him proud of me. I think all that, at the end of the day, Robby's just looking for someone to care about him, to be proud of him. And so he does things that hopefully will do that for himself. And I think that's why, we're set up to believe that he's going to give this code to Trey and Cruz, and you're rooting for him the whole time not to. And he does it because he A, respects Daniel, B, wants to make Daniel proud, and C, I think wants to be part of Daniel's family. And we'll see that come up again as it continues. But he wants to be part of a family, and he wants to be part of a family that cares about him. And he
does. He's been welcomed in there by Daniel and Amanda too, who was actually the first LaRusso to show him kindness and give him a chance. And then later on, Samantha would do so as well. And they also didn't know each other from anybody, but she befriends him. It's just like, okay, you're a good guy. That's it. I will be friends with you because you're a good person. And now it's the opposite. He's thinking, all these other people seem to think I'm a good person. Maybe I am.
Right.
Maybe they're right. And those other people didn't know what they were talking about. So maybe I am actually a decent person who can be trusted. I don't want to lose that now. So then, yeah, when we get to that parking lot scene, when Trey and Cruz come up and ask for the code, that's one of his best moments, when he not only just, he could have just not shown up that night, or texted them and be like, not going to happen. Instead, he shows up and he intends to tell them to their face, I am not doing this.
Yeah.
And I will fight you if you try to make me do it. And that's exactly what he does.
Yeah.
And that's his statement, even though he almost loses. Well, he does lose, not for lack of trying, but he makes his statement right then and there, and it's brilliant. And from then on, for the time being, he's Daniel's Miyagi-Do student.
He's always trying to be good. I think, as we've been saying, I think he saw himself as the bad kid because he felt like he was to blame for everything. And once he realized that, people cared about him and that people were showing interest in him, he decided to start being the person that they expected him to be, and that he wanted to live up to what they thought of him. And so he was always trying to live up to how they perceived him, as opposed to, what he had always thought about himself. And I think that does shift his mindset a little bit, to the point where he starts to blame Johnny as opposed to blame himself.
And we'll see that
in a few moments.
We'll see that prominently even more seasons later, where he's like, I don't need to blame myself anymore. I don't need to beat myself up. I'm not a loser. I can do anything. And these people who are successes in life, more successes than my own parents have ever dreamed of being, are giving me a chance and think I'm a good person and want to train me and want me to succeed. It's a very powerful incentive for you to want to do that yourself.
Well, him walking away from Johnny after in the season finale, I feel like that's a really big moment for him, of like finally not needing Johnny's acceptance. Like he's got Daniel and he doesn't need Johnny. And I think that's a key moment where he starts to think like, this might be my dad's fault. This might not be my fault. And Daniel cares about me, and Daniel sees me as a son, and he has these expectations of me. And so like, I can live up to those, I'm not going to be held down by my dad's mistakes. And then all of season 2, you see it like he's constantly blaming his dad and his mom for things. And, that's not necessarily right either, but at least he's not blaming himself anymore. And he's recognizing that it's not his fault in a lot of moments, but then he becomes obsessed with living up to Daniel's expectations and trying to be the perfect kid and trying to be perfect for Daniel, it's a whole new season 2 issue.
Yeah. And before we even get there, we've got these moments where Daniel lets him down as he perceives it. And Daniel does a lot of the same thing at the end of season 9, when Daniel realizes who Robby is and that it started out as a con, and pushes him away. And unlike when Johnny walks off and Robby says, I don't give a shit about you, go away, what else is new? Robby's heartbroken when Daniel does that to him. It says, don't come back here, don't come back to the dealership. You can see it on his face. That is devastated when that happens. And it's like, another father figure has thrown me to the curb.
Yeah.
But this time it affects him. But he comes back, and next thing you know, he's there in the gi, fighting in the All Valley. And I would love to know what the thought process was and what was going on from that end of episode 9 until he shows up in episode 10.
Right.
What was going through his head when he said, I'm going to show up, I'm going to be there?
I have a theory.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, like, every time Johnny lets him down, it's like, well, all he's ever done is let me down. Daniel was the first person to really show up for him. And so when Daniel got upset with him and let him down to a certain extent, I think there was something that clicked inside Robby. Another one of those moments where it was like, well, it's not my fault, like, kind of thing. And he was like, well, I'm going to go show up for Daniel, and I'm going to go show him that, I'm still worth it, kind of thing. Like, proving to Daniel that, like, he's there, he's in it, and he's not going to go compete for his dad now. He's going to go and compete unaffiliated, and he's going to perform Daniel's techniques, and he's still trying to make Daniel proud of him because he has positive associations with his relationship with Daniel, and there's something to fight for. Like, I don't think he did it to be petty, to go there and be like, oh, I'm going to compete without you, like, I don't need you. I think it was a cry for, I do need you, and I do want you back, and I want you to be my mentor, and I want to be part of, your dojo, your family, and I don't want my dad, like, nothing that you saw the other night was real. Like, I'm not doing this for him, I'm doing this for me and for you. And that was what brought Daniel back. And I just think, like, I don't think it was petty at all. I think it was wanting Daniel and wanting to show Daniel that he was choosing him, and he wanted Daniel to choose him.
Absolutely. I think it was twofold. I don't know whether he was thinking about it at the time, but yes, he wanted to prove himself. He knows he messed up with Daniel, but this time he wants to make it right. So in his mind, he knows Daniel's going to be there at the All Valley. He knows the LaRussos will be there. There's nothing he can say to make it better. So the best thing he can do to prove himself to Daniel and to himself, really, is to show up in a white gi and compete in the tournament as a Miyagi-Do student, even though he's not technically for Miyagi-Do. He's using all the techniques he learned to show him, I'm sorry and I'm serious. I want to be your student. I want you to accept me.
Right.
And then at the same time, the other half is when he comes out and he gives Johnny that look of gold. Like, I'm coming out here, and this moment you're expecting to have with your Cobra Kai students, I'm going to do anything in my power to take that away from you. I'm going to kick all your students' asses right now. So he's getting this moment with Daniel and with Johnny, and it's like what he's hoping is going to be some type of closure, that I'm not going to fight you, Johnny, but I will fight your new son, whoever he is, the guy who pushed me at the beach, and all your other students, and I know it's just going to eat at you, and you will know that Daniel LaRusso trained me to do that. But then you're right, as it progresses, and then he gets hurt and Daniel comes back to him, he learns that he doesn't have to hate Johnny and be angry in order to succeed, that Daniel will be there for him, and people will love him, and he can do anything without having hatred for your own father. And like you said, it doesn't mean you have to be his best friend, but just don't walk around with all this hatred in your heart all the time, because it's just going to eat at you. And that's what it's done up till now. It's just completely eaten at him, and it's kind of controlled his life, and everything he was doing was to feed that beast instead of living his own life. And I think you can see it clicked with Robby when they're still back there, that, okay, I see what you're saying. I'm going to do this for me, not to get back at someone. And had he not been injured, I think he would have. I think he would have come out on top.
I think he would have come out on top even if he was injured and Miguel hadn't re-injured him. Like, I think he was on the way to winning, kind of like a Daniel in the original movie kind of moment.
Yeah.
But Miguel went in for the double kill, I guess. And I think that was kind of it for him. But yeah, he kind of walks away at the end of season 1 with a little bit of peace, kind of having resolved his anger with his dad to a certain extent, because he's no longer trying to change his dad's opinion of him. He's very focused on Daniel, and it breaks down even further when his mom abandons him in season 2. And now he's been abandoned by both parents, and Daniel's the one to take him in and give him a little bit of shelter and love and safety. And Sam obviously had something to do with that as well. But I think he gives up on both of his parents, and then he's all in on being like a part of the LaRusso family. And we get a whole new kind of tension when he's kind of going back and forth between like having feelings for Sam, but also like wanting to be part of their family. And like there's this huge contradiction in his mind of like, you know, I can't upset Daniel. I want to be part of Daniel's family. I can't date his daughter. Like I can't be into his daughter. That would be a huge issue.
Yeah, you're right. As soon as Shannon is out of the picture, he is full on Miyagi-Do, and he walks in there and never comes back. And he is, I'd say, for the first time in the series, genuinely happy. You see him smile a lot. You see him laugh. You see him joke around. We, for the first time, in my opinion, really get to know him and see his true personality, not the mask he's put on, not the con man, but just him. And you see he's a good person. He's a good kid, which makes, you know, later actions even more devastating for us when things don't go his way. But for now, he's in the happiest place he's ever been. Like you said, now he's got a hot tub. He's in a mansion. He's got the Miyagi-Do. He's learning from his mentor, and he's got a best friend in Sam.
Yeah.
And even before it starts to develop, when he realizes, oh, I actually have feelings for her, they're like, you know, wheel technique partners. Like the two of them are totally in sync. And he's like, I have never had anything like this before. And then, yeah, you're right. When he does realize that he has feelings for her, his initial reaction is, oh my God,
I can't ruin it.
I cannot do anything to screw this up. This is all I've ever had, and I literally have nothing if I don't have this.
Yeah, I mean,
it's hard.
Leads me into a little bit of a romantic discussion of, I wonder how real his feelings for Sam are, in the sense of like, obviously he likes her and he has formed a really close friendship with her. And I wonder if it became romantic because he saw, first of all, he's like, he looks up to Daniel and she's Daniel's daughter. Like she's part of Daniel's family. So he's looking up to her in that sense already. And he likes her as a friend, and she's, you know, the one that's around, that's again showing him interest and like care and being there for him. And so I wonder if he truly had a real romantic connection with her, or more of like an infatuation, and kind of like, I think this is what I want this to work, because I want to be part of the LaRussos, and like,
I think it's very much the latter. I think you hit the nail on the head. I will be honest, and I may be in the minority with some of your viewers and listeners, but I never bought Sam and Robby as a couple the same way I did with Sam and Miguel. Miguel and Sam were in love. They were in season 1, and that's why their breakup was so hard on both of them. I never got that same feeling with Robby and Sam. They were, as I said, best friends. And yeah, she loved him and would have done anything. And they were true partners. And they spent every single day, and that's alluded to at the beginning of season 2. You're going to be spending a lot of time together, and they do.
yeah,
And, if you've had no one your whole life, and we don't know a whole lot about his history, but we don't get a sense that he's had a whole lot of relationships and girlfriends.
yeah.
Suddenly you're spending every single day with this girl, this attractive girl who's nice to you, who laughs with you, who smiles with you, who you know is now single and wants to be with you and enjoys your company. That can be mistaken for different types of feelings that she she's broken up with Miguel, and she's now spending time with this guy who is also an attractive guy, who also likes her and enjoys her company. And the two have shared a fight together. The two are on the winning team at the mall fight against Hawk and the Cobras, and all the adrenaline that comes in with that. And they're just together, and in my view, say, okay, you're here, I'm here. We both like each other. Let's see where this goes. And eventually they do cross that line, but I never really bought it as that they were into each other as much as they think they were, especially on Sam's end.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, obviously, I said what I thought Robby was thinking, but I agree with you on the Sam end too, of like, I just broke up with somebody, this cute guy, he's around all the time, he's nice, he's my best friend. I should try it, because, Miguel let me down, and now I have a best friend that I can rely on. And if I can rely on somebody, then maybe that's the person I should be with. And obviously he's cute, and like they're into each other physically enough. Because no one in this cast is bad looking.
Of course not. It's the
It's
Valley.
TV. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I think that their relationship was destined to be figured out to eventually be platonic. I don't think they were ever going to be soulmates,
No, I don't think that, and I, in my opinion, that is the eventual end game with the two of them. That the two may be teammates again, they will be trusted friends, but they're not going to be a couple.
It's hard in high school to figure that out too. You have friends in high school, and you're always contemplating, in male-female relationship and male-female friendships. Like, I obviously care a lot about this person, and I have all these, feelings of love towards this person. Like, why am I not in love with them? Like, I should be, I should be dating this person. And that's definitely something I've experienced as someone who had a lot of guy friends, is always that question of like, well, why don't you ever date any of your guy friends? And it's like, it took me a while to figure that out.
It's hard. I was in the exact same boat. I had lots of female friends in high school. I've always had that. But yeah, back then it's hard to explain, but this person is my friend. And, now 20 plus years later, they're still my friends.
Right.
And, when we meet up and we'll joke like, well, why did we never date? Why were we never a couple? And we weren't supposed to be. And now it's good because I can think of these people, even all these years later, as my dear friend from when I was younger, as opposed to my ex-girlfriend, who was a big mistake.
Yeah.
And, once you cross that line, you can't go back.
Yeah.
So you've got a choice to make.
And even when he's so hurt in season 3 that Sam stops communicating with him and then he goes back and he sees her with Miguel, I think all of those feelings of betrayal aren't even romantic feelings of betrayal. I think he just feels like he lost his best friend and like
Absolutely.
that she stopped caring. And that's like, we talked about that for all through season 1. Like he was looking for someone to care and she stopped caring. She let him down. And so I don't even think it was as much about Miguel as the show sometimes makes it seem. I really do think it was more just like that mourning the loss of your best friend who doesn't care anymore, who doesn't care about you. And for Robby, that's a really intense hurt.
It's hard. And I also see that Robby associates Miguel with Johnny.
Yes.
Miguel
100%.
may as well be Johnny. So if Miguel does something that pisses him off, oh, you only did that because you're my jerk father's student. So he not only lost Sam to Miguel, he lost Sam to his father. It's another thing that his father took away from him, the one thing he had. And yeah, it is heartbreaking that he feels that he lost Sam. And it is heartbreaking if you lose a friend, if you lose a best friend. It's different from breaking up with someone. But when a true friendship ends, that is absolutely crushing.
It's as heartbreaking as any relationship.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And if it ends because of the way it ended in this situation, it's even worse. So
they never really broke up either.
No,
that's a whole
they
other
didn't.
conversation, but they never really broke up.
They didn't. And Sam never really stopped caring about him. She never blamed him. She started writing, she says, until he stopped. He never wrote back. So she just stopped.
I think the other reason they never broke up is kind of because of what we talked about is they were never really a relationship. And I don't think that Sam saw it all that much as a relationship. And so when he was gone. And when Miguel came back into her life, like she didn't even give it a second thought. She hadn't heard from him. And it's tough. But like,
yeah,
there was almost no breakup needed. But at the same time, like in Robby's mind, they never broke up.
True. Yeah. And Robby, it is made clear in most of the first half of season 2 that Sam is not over Miguel. Even when she and Robby start doing their thing, and even after they kiss, it's made clear she is not over it. She sees the octopus, she starts thinking about Miguel. And I'd say the same thing with Miguel when she starts dating Tori. It's made clear he is not over Samantha. Tori and Robby are effectively rebounds. That sounds harsh, but that's what they are. You're the closest person of the opposite sex who's giving me the time of day. So let's see where this goes.
I do think Tori is more of a rebound than Robby was, in the sense that Robby and Sam truly did have a connection on a platonic friendship level.
That's true. They do. But
still,
I think there was just something missing there, the hurt of breaking up, and here's this other person. So this is where it goes. And then you get to episode 10, beginning, where
before we even get there, though,
okay,
Robby has moments where he's trying, where I'm so conflicted because I'm rooting so much for him, but like when he hides the Medal of Honor, when he puts it back and doesn't tell Sam that Miguel left it, and like even at the party and all of that, like Robby's trying so hard to hold on to these people because he has such a fear of abandonment, and he is so worried that one wrong move or Miguel comes back into the picture and he will lose Sam. Like he is so worried. He doesn't bring Sam home to Daniel because he doesn't want Daniel to think it was his fault that she's like this and to kick him out again.
Yeah, it's a fear of abandonment, a fear of loss. He doesn't want Sam, like he says, to earn any points with Miguel, or Miguel to earn any points with Sam by bringing it back. He doesn't want Miguel to earn any points with Daniel, because Daniel thinks Miguel is an SOB, and he doesn't want that opinion changed. I'm the good guy. Miguel is the bad guy. Daniel, you agree with me for now. I don't want that to change.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's happy. He's probably the happiest he's been in a very long time, but he's also scared shitless that at any given moment I could lose all of this. And then I've literally got nothing because I've made my position. I have told my father to go to hell, and my mom's not here. So I've got nothing else. And I will do everything in my power to claw and keep this with every fiber of my being. And I will not let anyone take that away from me, especially Miguel.
The feeling that floor could drop out from under you at any given moment if you do one wrong thing, that fear has to be, yes, he's the happiest he's ever been, but that fear has to be eating away at him. He has to feel like he's holding on to the edge of a cliff, or he's, walking on like ice. Like it is so stressful. And so there's got to be so much built up stress inside of him, like, and fear and anxiety. And so he isn't even as happy as he could be if he could just accept that they care about him and that one mistake isn't going to make them stop. And so that's a very ignorant, like youthful teenage feeling, like that the rug could be ripped out from under you because you make one mistake.
It's true, but in his defense, I'll say that's all he's ever experienced, even from Daniel one time.
Exactly. And even like getting into episode 10, the same thing, like he takes Sam to Johnny's and that's it, it's over. So that's the problem with the adults in this show. But yeah, I mean, it's all he's ever experienced.
And this is, and it happened in season one mistake, Daniel throws him out. So he's like, okay, I got my second chance with Daniel. I'm not effing this up. And then so he makes this decision because he thinks it will be the best for Daniel. He thinks if he brings Samantha back to Daniel's home and Daniel sees her drunk, it'll crush him. That's what he says. And he thinks Daniel will be mad at him and blame him for what happened to his baby girl. So he does something that in a million years he probably never thought he would do and takes her to Johnny's house because it's the only other place he has. And he does that for Daniel in his mind. In his mind. And then that all just completely backfires. And then in a matter of that one day, I think it's the same day, Daniel shows up, abandons Robby in a huff again, and says, fine, you want to be with your father? Stay with your father. Go ahead and be like them. And pulls Samantha off, and there you go, one abandonment. Then later that day, he learns about what happened with Sam and Miguel at the party the night before, that in his view, she cheated on him. Strike two. The two people I had in the world have both betrayed me and abandoned me. And you learned about both of them in a matter of hours. And everything he feared, everything we just talked about, has come true.
I'm so depressed for him.
It's so hard.
Sad. My heart aches for Robby, and oh my God, he's got so much sadness. So much betrayal. I would say that the saddest 1 second in the 3 seasons we've seen so far is that look on his face when Tori tells Sam, you kissed Miguel. And you see like his heart stop. I don't know how he did that because it was like a physical reaction. It wasn't just his face, it was like a physical reaction, like, and I don't think it was because like that's my girlfriend, you kissed my girlfriend. It was that you've taken away what I had, whatever, however you want to define it, a friendship, a father, a sister. I had that and you took it away from me. And so imagine you have those feelings of abandonment right then and there,
and then a fight breaks out. And you're feeling all these emotions, and all of a sudden people are throwing punches. You're just ready to go.
Yeah. Here's
'Cause
my red hot take.
Go for it.
I don't blame Robby for Miguel's injury. I don't blame him.
Wow.
I don't. I blame his trauma and I blame his heartbreak. I don't blame Robby for feeling that way in that moment. And those feelings were enough to make him lose control. And that's all it was, is he just lost control. He lost his temper. And like you said, all of that's happening in that instant. And then a fight breaks out. And like, he obviously, as we've said, like, he associates Miguel with Johnny. So all of his anger at Johnny in that moment, like, even though he's started to try to repair that relationship, like, there's still so much anger there. And he still sees Miguel as the student, the kid that is being chosen over him by Johnny.
Miguel is Johnny again.
Yeah.
It's my dad.
Miguel's also the one who has now caused him to lose everything he thought he had.
Yeah.
And in so many ways, because Sam was drunk at the party because of Miguel, and she kissed Miguel and all those things. So now all that's going through his head, and he's like, shit, like, I lost Daniel because of that too, because I took drunk Sam to my dad's instead of home. And that was all because of Miguel and Johnny.
And I did all that 5 minutes after she kissed Miguel, which I didn't even know about.
And I lost Daniel, and then he kissed Sam, and now I've lost Sam, and I've lost everything. And so he has all of that instant heartbreak, plus all of the additional pain from all of the trauma in his life with Johnny, and with his fear of abandonment and his fear of loss, and just all of that fear, anger. Like, in that moment, I don't blame him for taking it too far. And I don't think he ever intended to hurt Miguel like that. But it was just like all of that emotion was coming out of him, if every punch and every kick. And Miguel, to his credit, showed that moment of mercy, and Robby took it too far. And like, I don't blame Robby for that.
Well, the kicking over the railing was clearly an accident, and you can see it on his face after it happens. He did not mean for that to happen. And if it happened in any other location, Miguel would not have obviously been as hurt as he was if they were still on the first floor, if it had happened away from the railing. Mm-hmm. But the getting up and just wanting to, no, we're not done here. I am taking you down the way you've just taken away everything from me. You know, the way you took me down at the tournament, the way you just took everything from me now. No, we're not done here until someone's not standing anymore. He's seeing red, and you can see it on his face pretty much throughout the whole fight. He's just, he ignores everybody else, everything else going on. He is focused on Miguel. But with that said, it is not Robby that starts the fight with Miguel.
He tries to stop the fight.
He tries to stop it, and it's Miguel that throws the first punch. And then it's almost like, thank you.
Yeah.
You struck first, and I've been trained for defense to strike back. Thank you. You just gave me my ticket. You gave me my green light for everything that I wanted. And now I'm going to take you out. And now I don't have an injured shoulder, and you're going to see what I can do. And I'm pissed. And from then on out, you just see it on his face. He's just focused, laser beam on Miguel, and doesn't stop until it's literally over.
And incredible credit to the writers, because I actually loved the moment where they start talking to each other, and it's like, she loves me. No, she loves me. And for both of those boys, it's not really about Sam. Their anger at each other has nothing to do with Sam, but it is such a 16-year-old move to make it about the girl.
Well, it's the easiest excuse.
It's the easiest thing to say. and it's the thing that you think you're supposed to say, and that's what you think is supposed to be your biggest issue. Like all those other things, they're not consciously thinking about, but they're thinking about the girl. And so obviously that's what two 16-year-old boys would throw at each other when it came to the words.
Oh, sure.
And like, I feel like people would think that I would hate that line because it's obviously not about her, but it's so important that that's what they choose to say. Like it's so on brand for kids that age to say that and to make it about that, even though it's not.
Yeah, again, because they're trying to hurt each other. And on top of throwing punches, they're trying to hurt each other with words, and they know that that's going to sting. That I'm going to mention the fact that she loves me, not you, that's going to hurt. And if I can get that one little zing in on top of punching you in the face, I'm going to do it. Especially Miguel, because that's what he was taught. Show no mercy. Do what you can to defeat your opponent. And yeah, it works. And he's just red hot until the end. And then what happens. Miguel gets hurt. And Sam looks up and says, Robby, what did you do? Like, WTF. On top of all that, suddenly she's looking up at him and like, what the hell, Robby?
And everything is his fault again.
And I've now lost everything. And not only does she not want to be with me, she hates me because I hurt Miguel. And it's like, I was right all along. I was right. I knew these people were going to abandon me, and they did, in his view.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't see him again for the rest of season 2 and for a big chunk of the beginning of season 3.
I root for him, and I feel so bad for him, and all of it is so circumstantial, and you see all those moments where he really is a good guy, wants to be the good guy, and it's the fear and anxiety that prevent him from doing that. And in season 3, even more than that, it becomes about the lack of communication that does that to him, on top of fear and anxiety and abandonment issues. Like, it's just crazy. Like, he's so broken at the beginning of season 3, and he has nothing, and he feels like he has nothing, no one to go to, no one to turn to. And he turns to his mom, and she brings Daniel, and Daniel brings the police. And if there were 5 more minutes in that conversation where Daniel was maybe able to explain it and communicate with him, maybe they could have gotten somewhere. But Daniel brings the police, and it's like that fear and that loss hits all over again. And on top of that, his mom was a part of it too. The only person that was trying to repair herself for him has now also let him down.
Yeah. And at that point, he's so broken that, it's a lot of his conversations. If you look at him, he's a very different character than he was in season 1 and 2. He doesn't look Daniel in the eye a lot the way he did before. He's just kind of off in his world, and he's speaking, but he's not really there. So much to the extent that he can't see. He now has 2 fathers, Johnny and Daniel, who spent most of the first 2 episodes looking for him, trying to help him. 2 people who he knows hate each other so much, but put their differences aside, put their shit aside to be there for him and to help him. And he doesn't know any of that. He can't see that. He just sees the abandonment. Yeah. He also doesn't see that the reason he's in this nice rehab facility for his mother is that Daniel paid for it. Daniel put him there. Daniel saved his mother's life, arguably. She was at rock bottom, and she went to this nice rehab, which on the LaRusso's dime, and looked good. She looked the best she'd ever looked. She was doing great, and that is because of Daniel. And he can't even see that he did that They don't know Shannon from anybody. Just she is Robby's mom. She is someone that Robby needs, and they needed to repair her. Basically, they needed to fix
Right.
her, and they
Right.
did that for Robby. And he's so broken that he cannot see any of that. And
Broken and naive. I also think like that's not what a teenager is thinking about, you know. Any teenager, much less someone as broken as him, isn't thinking to themselves like, oh, my mom is here because of Daniel, and like Daniel saved my mom's life. Like I don't think any kid is really thinking it into it that deeply for the most part, like on the whole. There are
well, a
definitely
lot of
that
kids
would.
probably wouldn't. I would give Robby that credit if he was thinking straight, because he knows the
Yeah.
condition his mom was in. But the last time he saw his mom, she was going off to Cabo adjacent. She was with a different guy every week. She knows what she was like for the majority of the time they were together. And this was a very different Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
And that even the fact that she'd made the decision to go to rehab at all, we led to believe that she'd never done that before.
Right.
And then suddenly she shows up at the LaRusso's house, and
She's
she
going
now
to
has the means to do that. And one of the best places in the country, supposedly.
right.
And it's hard. And even when that happens, that whole him getting arrested right there happens, he's so shut off to the realization that he also did that for Robby, that he almost killed a guy. You could talk about the circumstance or whatever, but he almost killed a fellow student and then ran away and was a fugitive for several weeks. And he has a criminal record, and he was going to be tried as an adult for, I imagine, attempted murder, possibly involuntary manslaughter, or attempted. And if Miguel had died, there's no question he would have gone to prison. Months in juvie for almost killing a guy, it's pretty damn good. That does not happen to poor kids from Reseda. That happens to kids who have good lawyers and help. And even throughout season 3, by then he's just seeing red. He can't see any of that. That it could have been so much worse if I didn't have these people who loved me. And he's just so broken at that point. And then he's got to deal with all the shit that he deals with in juvie, which doesn't help.
And then once again, Johnny doesn't show up for him. But you know who does show up? Our manipulator.
Yeah.
He
and
swoops in at just the right moment of broken.
And now we get a sense of, I always wondered, how could all these students go to Kreese? He was clearly such a terrible person. He was yelling at them, screaming at them, beating them up. Why did they go to his dojo in the first place? Why did they stay there, until he finally went too far at the beginning of Karate Kid 2? And we hear about it when we hear about Johnny talking about when he first met Kreese and his broken home situation, and Kreese was the only father he ever had, and you sort of get it. But now we're seeing it again with Robby, and that how Kreese is such a manipulator. He takes these kids when they are at absolute rock bottom, when they are at their absolute weakest, and he is kind to them. We see Kreese be the kindest he's ever been. We know he's full of shit, but Robby doesn't know that. And he shows compassion to them. He tries to teach them as best he can. He solves the juvie problem. He teaches Robby to strike first, which ends the dispute with Sean. And it's then when he finally comes out and he still feels abandoned by Johnny and by Daniel and by Sam, he turns to Kreese, because throughout all this, Kreese is the only person who showed him any type of understanding. Hey, I get where you're coming from. Yeah, your dad's a jerk, and don't even get me started on that LaRusso guy. You know what I think of him. I get it, and it sucks, but I got a lot of students like you. Why don't you come over, crash on my place. In a million years, did you ever think you'd see John Kreese offer someone a cup of coffee? He's friendly. He's nice. And if you didn't know him, you're like, oh, LaRusso and my dad didn't know what they were talking about. Yeah, he's a little rough around the edges, but this Kreese guy, he's not bad.
And he'd
He's a
already
good guy.
gone
He's one
through
of
that
them.
with Daniel. He'd already gone through that of like, this is my dad's bad guy, and I showed up and he wasn't as bad as I thought he was. And
he's saying, well, at least I know where I stand.
He turned out to be just as bad as he thought he was, but like going through it again, like he's looking at Kreese as someone who both Johnny and Daniel have said is this horrible person, and he's like, well, they're both full of shit, and like, so they could be just as wrong about Kreese as they were about everything else.
And his argument, it's very rudimentary, but it's Kreese showed up. Kreese was there. Johnny wasn't there. Daniel wasn't there, and I'll give that to him.
Well, Daniel tried to be there. Robby didn't let him be there.
He called. He could have shown up. With all the things he did to get Robby into juvie as opposed to adult prison in 3 months, he could have shown up one day. Robby could have told him to go to hell, and I don't want to see you, but he could have gotten himself on the visitors list, and he didn't.
Yeah.
And Johnny,
which is its own. That has always confused me, because he did everything else to try to reach out to him and just didn't
follow up, and he was going to Okinawa. He was doing his own thing, but still, and he was there at the tail end. But I get it. Oh, now you're here. You're the one who sent me away, and I haven't seen you in 3 months. And Johnny, he dropped the ball. We know why. It's understandable, but he dropped the ball that one time. But again, he couldn't say, "Hey, Bobby, I screwed up. Can we try this again next Tuesday? I'll be there this time." And he just didn't, because he doesn't think like that. And the only person who showed up was John Kreese. So then Robby gets out, and he wants nothing to do with Johnny and Daniel. And he just makes that clear from the get-go. I want nothing to do with either of you. You two have done nothing but let me down and fight with each other, and I've gotten entangled in your own bullshit, and I want nothing to do with it anymore. And he can't see the fact that they're there. They both, again, are standing, they're arguing, but they're both standing right next to each other to be there for Robby. But at that point, he's just done. And so he goes to now the only other place he can think of, which is the Cobra Kai dojo.
To the only person who showed up. In his mind, the only person who was helpful and who cared and who got him. And that
and so he was,
on top of that, Tori also shows that she understands him too. And so it becomes a place where he, very similar to in season 1 and 2, like it becomes a place where he has an influential figure who understands him and who cares about him and is teaching him, and a friend who gets him.
And that's another thing, when
repeating
he starts meeting. But when he meets Tori at least can understand Robby once they got over their history. She has the same anger issues, the same abandonment issues. They are a lot alike. And I think the two of them are going to be a very formidable team. Again, I don't think it's going to be romantic in nature, and I hope they don't take it in that direction, because it's just, I don't think that would work. But I think the two of them are going to be a real formidable team.
I think they will try to make it romantic, because I think Robby is repeating the same cycle, but instead of it becoming a positive for him, it's becoming a negative. And we're seeing the absolute reverse of Daniel and Sam, and Miyagi-Do is Kreese, Tori, and Cobra Kai. And it's Robby doing the same things over and over again. And he needs to break that cycle. He needs to not rely on someone else to let him down. Like, he's expecting people to let him down at this point.
And I don't know why he thinks Kreese will be any different. Maybe it's because, like we said, because he showed up, because he was there, because he's the one.
I don't think he trusts Kreese. I don't think he trusts Kreese the way he trusted Daniel. I don't think
I
there's
don't think
the same
so.
trust. I think he's so broken and I think that's where the cycle is going to snap because I don't think he trusts Kreese that way. I think Kreese is going to try to make him and try to get in his head, but I don't think Robby is that weak anymore.
No. And I think Kreese does not see Robby as like one of his other students. He knows that this is a good person under there. I'm going to fuel his anger, fuel his hatred, turn him over to my side, but he's not there yet. He's still a good, confused kid. And the reason I think I can say that with pretty much certainty is that he does not send Robby along with the other Cobra Kais over to the LaRusso house to start shit and wreck everything. I do not believe if Robby was there that night, he would have been okay with smashing up Daniel's home and beating up Sam and Dimitri and Bert and Nate and all these people who were his friends. I don't think he would be okay with that. And I think if he saw that at that point with his own eyes, oh, Tori, Kyler, these are not good people.
He would have turned his back on Kreese.
He would have been like, what have I done? And that was very much intentional to send Tori off in a rage, but keep Robby where he was. You stay here, you train. Also knowing that after this goes down, Johnny's going to come kicking down in the Cobra Kai gi. And I believe that is what Kreese wants with Robby, is Johnny. He wants Johnny back. That has been his goal from the minute he came back on the scene. And now he sees Robby as the key to that. I've got your son.
Yeah.
I basically kidnapped him. He doesn't realize it, but I've got him. And
well, it's always been about Johnny.
Yeah. He sees Johnny as his son. John Kreese loves two things. He loves Cobra Kai and Johnny Lawrence. And Martin Kove has said that numerous times. Have Johnny. And he is not going to stop until he gets him. And that's why, it's kind of humorous, but he said, this is your last chance. Well, this is really your last chance.
Yeah.
He will welcome Johnny back with open arms at any point if Johnny was to turn back. So he's got his son. He's going to say, either come back or you're going to have to fight your son, because he's now my number one student. And that is kind of where we're left off, which is crazy. The thought that he has set up this tournament knowing full well who's going to be likely the number one Cobra Kai student, and that if you want to take down Cobra Kai, you're going to have to get through Robby. So Johnny, you're going to have to train all your students to kick your son's ass. And Daniel, you're going to train all your students, including your daughter, to kick your former student's ass.
Yeah.
Let's see if you can really do
so
that.
manipulative, and it's so thought out in that sense.
Oh yeah.
And it's John Kreese is another incredibly complex character. But with Robby,
yes.
I just seeing him fight Johnny, truly physically fight Johnny, was so heartbreaking. It hurt.
Yeah.
And Johnny didn't want to fight him, but then once again, Johnny, in actual self-defense, which I feel like Johnny almost never does, he hurt Robby. Physically.
Yeah, it was almost a similar move that he does on the beach in the Karate Kid, where he just kind of sidesteps and the other guy flips over and he says, I didn't do anything, which he really didn't. But yeah, Robby's head goes into the locker, just defending him off. But you can see it on Johnny's face. Like, I won't fight you. I do not want to fight you. I don't want this.
Yeah.
Come back to me. And yeah, it's hard to see. And when Robby says those words, he at this point truly believes that he hates Johnny. And that in part is because of Kreese. He's been taught, no, I shouldn't hate myself all this time. I should hate you. You are the cause of all my problems all this time. This all started with you. I hate you. And at that point, it works, or it starts to work until Johnny fends him off. And then when that happens, forget it. He's full-blown Cobra Kai at that point. He will do anything Kreese wants.
Yeah. Well, I guess the question is, where do we go from here? Where does Robby go from here? How do we
Yeah.
get him back on track? Can we get him back on track? I root for him every day.
I do too, but it's not going to be easy. And whether it happens in season 4, I don't know, because on top of everything John Kreese has done and is doing, we're also going to be throwing Terry Silver into the mix, and God even knows what that guy's going to do to Robby or through Robby.
I think Robby is too smart for Terry Silver. I do.
Season 1 Robby,
in Robby.
I do too, but it's just, and that's why I say he was such a different character in season 3, just his facial expressions. Season 1 Robby, season 2 Robby, I'm totally with you. He's a sharp kid. He knows bullshit from anybody, and he doesn't take anyone's crap. He's got a really good head on his shoulders. But at season 3, he's just so blank, and he's just a shell of himself that, maybe it would just be the straw that broke the camel's back. That, yeah, I'll just listen to this guy. He sounds kind of crazy, this guy with the ponytail, but he wants to take my dad down the same way I do. I'll hear what he has to say. And Terry Silver is a convincing guy. We saw it in Karate Kid 3. He's also someone that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but Robby knows that story, kind of. He knows that Daniel fell victim to Cobra Kai. And I don't know that he'll think about that all that much, and he'll see Daniel as the good guy in that scenario necessarily at the moment. But I have not even a theory. I have this want for Robby's mom, who is obviously doing better, to come back into the picture. She's going to be done with rehab soon.
Yes.
And legally, Robby doesn't have a guardian right now. He's not living with anybody. Like, he's living at a dojo. He's going to have to go back to living with his mom. And Shannon is so reformed at this point. And I think that finally getting the love and nurturing mother that he was missing, and she's always been present, and so she's always been there, and I think that is gonna hit Robby in the feels. But then, like, also seeing her take care of him, like, I think she's gonna take care of him this time around, and she's gonna be the one to say, like, something along the lines of, and maybe she doesn't say it at all, maybe it's just her love and commitment and renewed dedication to Robby. But I think once Robby sees that kind of love and that kind of caring, and I don't know at what point in the timeline this will happen and how far he'll be, but I think it's going to start to take root that, like, Kreese and Terry Silver don't love him and care about him the same way. And when he sees that from Shannon, I think he'll start to put the pieces together of seeing it from Johnny and Daniel as well, and where he missed all those things because he was so broken.
Yeah.
I think it'll all start to click almost like in reverse, like seeing it all in, like, his, they say, like, hindsight is 2020, like seeing it all kind of from a different perspective after finally getting someone to love him. And I think that'll turn things around, because when Robby feels loved, he's the most perceptive when it comes to bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to believe his mom, and his mom is genuine in it. But I think showing that, I think she's going to kind of kickstart that and take the route there that needs to happen.
I hope she plays a big role in it, because, that would just be nice. The mother figure that he never had, and that maybe that will be the key, because he's been so focused on father figures I never had, that it was the mother all along who's going to help guide him. So I love that. I also don't think Daniel and Johnny are giving up on Robby. I think the fact that they're in this situation does not mean that they're done with him by any stretch of the imagination. And there's going to be a lot of conversations and a lot of actions to say and do. How do we get Robby back? How do we bring him back? Doesn't have to be to Miyagi-Do or to Eagle Fang, but just away from Kreese, away from that. He's a good kid. He's a good person. how do we get him away from this devil that we both know, and now two devils. And
I
that's
think. Ooh, sorry, I just totally cut you off.
no, that's okay. There's so much.
You said two
and
devils, and in my head, it clicked. Like, I think Johnny and Daniel tend to fall victim to neglecting certain situations when other things seem to be more of a priority in their, like, right there in front of them.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's going to be like they're going to almost neglect the Robby issue out of the get-go. And once Terry Silver is involved, I think Daniel's going to panic. And I think that's when they're going to start to say, we need to get Robby back. Like, I don't know that it'll, like, I think they're going to say it early on. It's kind of going to get neglected a little bit because that's what they do. Unfortunately, that's part of who they are as characters. It's like here and now. And once Terry Silver's back in the picture, once devil number 2 gets, comes into the room, it's going to be like, Robby, like, we forgot about Robby. Like, let's go get him. We need to get him out of there.
Right.
And I think that's kind of in the betweens is where Shannon is going to come into play. But yeah, no, you're so totally right.
And I think also on top of all that, at some point, Robby's eyes are going to awaken. And we're going to see that wise young man that we saw in season 2. And maybe it's Shannon that reignites the spark and realizes that he is loved and he doesn't have to be what he's become. Maybe it's Daniel and Johnny. Maybe it's all 3 of them. But somehow along the way, don't know if it'll be in season 4 or later, he will wake up and he will see Cobra Kai for what it is. And I'm hoping I'm wrong, but he's also going to, I think, have that experience and see with his own eyes what he did not see at the end of season 3 when he was not at the LaRusso mansion. He's going to see the real John Kreese. He's going to see the real Terry Silver and what they can do and what they are capable of. And the combination of all that, I hope, I know there's been some theories that what if Robby loses and we get sort of a repeat of the beginning of Karate Kid Part 2, where Kreese goes ballistic and tries to kill Robby. I really hope it doesn't come to that point, because I don't think poor Robby could take that anymore on top of everything else. But
I don't think it fits the story either.
I don't think so, but I think he has to see what they really are, the way Daniel learned who they really are. And
that's totally true. And that's kind of what I meant when I said I think he's going to see through Terry Silver, is because I think Terry and Kreese together, we really haven't seen that. Like, we have, but we haven't, because obviously Kreese wasn't really all that present in Part 3. Yeah. I think actually seeing them together and the damage that they're going to do and how over the top it is. And we are getting new characters. So I think we're going to see, Robby's going to see other kids being manipulated. And he might not see it when they're doing it to him, but I think he's going to see it in other people. And I think when the 2 of them team up, I think Robby's going to say, whoa, this is, I wanted to get back at my dad and I wanted to get back at Daniel, but like, this is so much, this is too far. Like, I think but I don't know when we're going to get there. That's the thing.
I hope so. I just hope that he's not so blinded by anger towards his dad and to Daniel to a lesser extent that he ignores it for a while. I think that's what's going to happen. I think he's just going to be so still just blinded with hatred and rage for his father that he's going to turn a blind eye or just be genuinely clueless to what's going on around him until it's too late, or it's almost too late. There will be that moment, but because clearly he's going to be a big part of Cobra Kai for season 4. I think he's going to be wearing the black dojo in the All Valley, and so he is going to be part of that dojo and that life for the majority, if not all, of at least season 4. Which means he's a smart person, which means he's really getting played, which would be out of character for him, or he's just so emotional at this point and just so done with everything that's happened that he just doesn't even care anymore. I don't care. Teach me what you want. Give me what you want. I'll do whatever you want to do, as long as my dad gets hurt at the end. fine.
We said we weren't going to talk about it, but Robby is Anakin Skywalker.
Ooh.
Robby is Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker. He's having a very similar. There's so many parallels to that story, and we don't have to. That's a whole separate episode where we compare the
That
two.
is.
But I just want to put it out there. That's who he is, and it's all about family, just as it was there too.
It's about family, and it's about fear of loss. And he loses one person, then he loses another, and then he fears throughout the whole time that he's going to lose another. And then he has this evil presence who says, I can take that fear away. I can make it sure that you don't lose that thing you fear to lose. And then he loses it worse than he could ever imagine and becomes the opposite of everything he stood for. So you're not wrong. And, hopefully he doesn't cross that line too long that we start to dislike him as a character, because I think there's been some resentment towards him after season 3. There's definitely an anti-Robby feeling more than there was after season 2. And I get it because he's just been so spiteful and hateful to Daniel and Johnny and Sam, and he's just angry the whole time, and he's not the same person. So I get people not loving seeing him in a lot of season 3, but if you get the whole context, if you really think about where he was from before season 1 all through the series until this point, that is one kid who has been through a lot. And season 1 through season 3 takes place over 16 months. It's a very short period of time where all of this happens to him. And he's still a kid. This is what we can't forget. He's not a grown adult yet. He's been through more than most 16-year-olds have, but he is still a 16-year-old kid who has had a hell of a life and been through a whole lot in 16 months. So it's, one of those, live in another man's shoes for a day and see how you would react if everything you knew and loved just disappeared or blew up. What would you do?
Oh my God. Robby, I think, would benefit the most out of any character from therapy.
Oh,
because I think he just needs to talk about it. That's, I think, that's Robby's fatal flaw, is communication. And I think if he just started to talk about his problems, if he started to talk about his feelings, if he just talked to somebody, because he doesn't open up to anybody. Like, even when we were talking about him being his happiest in season 2, and I said, like, there's all that fear, all that anxiety, that he's not sharing that with anybody. He's holding that all in, and that's why it comes out so aggressively at the end of season 2. Is, he's never expressed any of that, and he's never let any of it go, and he needs to express those things to someone. It doesn't have to be therapy. It could be to his mom. He needs to talk to somebody.
Yeah, and the lack of communication. Yeah, the lack of communication. I mean, and it parallels brilliantly with Daniel and Johnny's relationship, just how everything between them, all their 35 years of BS, is based on a total lack of communication. And same thing with them. If they would just talk out for 10 minutes, so much of their issues would have been resolved months ago. Then we wouldn't have the show. We would, of course. But same thing with Robby. So many situations, like we said, if there had just been another 5 minutes of just talking or explaining the situation, okay, don't run away, let's have a cup of coffee, talk it out, and then say what you're going to say and do what you're going to do. But let's at least have the conversation, and it never happens. And yeah, it is a flaw. You can see it like that, but I'll still give it to him that he's 16 years old. Why is it always on him to be the one to
no, it's not just on him. It's not just on him.
And that, like we said, okay, Robby pushes you away one time, tells you to get lost, you go back the next day. That is
be the adult.
Father does.
Yeah, be the adult.
Be the father. Okay, kids say things they don't mean. Kids are cruel. Kids say, I hate you. Kids say, I don't want to see you anymore. You go back.
I guarantee you they don't know what, they don't mean it.
they don't mean it. They don't know what they're talking
If
about.
they say it, they care enough where they don't actually mean it.
If someone is getting that emotional towards you, good or bad, they care about you.
Right.
It's when someone is whatever is when they don't give a shit. Like, stay, go, I don't care. It is clear that Robby has feelings towards. So if you're the father, you show up, you come back and say, I'm going to keep coming back until you talk to me. So you may as well just talk to me. And neither Daniel or Johnny have done that so far. And I think that needs to be, if there is any communication between Daniel and Johnny, they need to do that.
I just think that's where Shannon is going to come in. I think
And
she's going to
Yeah.
be the one to just keep coming back, because she's always been the one to keep coming back. And I think now that she's resolved her own issues, it's going to be, even more forceful and even more like, you need to talk to me. You need to tell me what's going on. Like, I'm here for you. And she's going to be the one to just keep showing up, because unfortunately it's not in Johnny and Daniel's character at the moment. And so Robby is going to have to be the one to go to them, I think, unfortunately. And it's just another one of those instances where Robby is forced to be way more mature than the situation and be way more mature than a regular 16-year-old. And I think that having Shannon is going to make him strong enough to do that. And once he does that, and if he goes to them, I think the floodgates are open. I think they'll go to him and they'll commit themselves to him. But I just don't see it in Johnny or Daniel to be the one to do that this season.
Not yet.
Everything else going on.
Yeah, not yet. Maybe not in season 4, but I do think it was intentional that we got that one scene with Shannon, Daniel, and Johnny together, the three of them. And there's a point, I forget who says it, but they say, our kid, our son. And it's not clear who's talking to who. So it's like all three of us. He is our kid and our responsibility. We, at different stages of his life, have all taken responsibility for him. And so, yeah, it's got to be on them to get it done. And you're probably right. It's probably going to have to be, because it's always a woman who gets them in line, whether it's Amanda or Carmen, or in this case, it probably could be Shannon.
It was Allie too in season 3.
Allie, geez. It's the theme. And so this season, you're right, could be Shannon who, knocks their heads together and, hey, dumbasses, forget your own stuff, forget about the dojo war. We have a son here. We have a human here who is about to be gone forever.
Yeah.
Mentally and emotionally.
100%.
And we got to do something now.
I just don't think it's going to come this season. I think it's more of a slow burn. I do.
Agree.
Because the way that the filming schedule went, and not in any way spoilers, but it, by the time I think we're going to see the All Valley tournament is going to be the end of the season. I think that's what we're building to.
I agree.
Just based on the way production went. And I think that's going to be, either the final episode or the final 2 episodes or whatever. I think that's going to be the end of it. And I do think Robby will be fighting for Cobra Kai in that All Valley. So
I agree completely.
I think it's a slow burn. And I think, there's going to be something that happens. I think Robby wins. That's my prediction. That's my gut feeling. I think he beats Sam in the finals. And we've all done brackets and stuff and how we get there. And I think there's a way that you get there. And I think that'll be part of it, of Robby's realization, is when he beats Sam, and he beats Sam the Cobra Kai way and all of that.
It could be. Yeah.
And I also think we'll be seeing something happen after the actual tournament, because first of all, we have to find out what the repercussions are for Johnny and Daniel losing. Second of all, I think there will be some kind of confrontation with the adults. And possibly that's where it clicks for Robby, when Kreese and Terry take it too far with his dad and Daniel, because he really did truly love and care about both Johnny and Daniel. And I don't think he's going to love and care about Kreese the same way. I think he's not going to care. And I think he's just going to let himself be manipulated, as opposed to really working to impress him and caring about his acceptance and his pride as much as he did with Johnny and Daniel. And I think they'll take it too far with Johnny and Daniel, and it'll affect Robby. And on top of that, having to beat Sam, someone who he loves. He loves Sam. Platonically, romantically, whatever you want to think about it, he has a lot of love for Sam. And I think taking her down probably in a illegal way is going to affect him.
Yeah, no question. I think the two of them are going to be in the finals. I think that is the most powerful ending to all the possible scenarios and brackets that you could come up with. To have these two former best friends, former teammates, former couple, however you want to phrase it, fighting each other. And it is also
Lawrence versus LaRusso.
Lawrence versus LaRusso, part 2. It's
Yeah.
Johnny's kid versus Daniel's kid. And it's the rematch that they all wanted, but in a different way. And now nobody wants it. Nobody wants these two to beat the hell out of each other, but it's going to happen. So it's the most emotionally charged finals of all the different possibilities. And I also agree, what little we know of season 4, we have been told that it is going to end in a holy shit cliffhanger. I believe those were close to Hayden's words. And that it's going to be another very long year between season 4 and season 5. And whatever that cliffhanger is, I do not believe is going to have to do with the tournament. I believe the tournament will have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then something is going to happen that drives us crazy, and then the season ends. And one other slight tidbit he mentioned when they were towards the end of production is that Hayden had said, the Karate Kid fan in me can't believe that I'm filming what I just filmed today. So there you know. That has nothing to do with Robby or Sam. That's got to do with Daniel, Johnny, Terry, Kreese. That's old school Karate Kid.
Yeah.
And so I agree. It's going to have something to do with the adults, whether it's the rematch, the 2-on-2, I don't know, someone turning on someone. If Terry starts really hurting on Johnny, how will Kreese react because it's his son? I don't know. Will there be some rift between Kreese and Silver, some rift between Daniel and Johnny? I don't know, but it's not going to have to do with the kids.
I mean, Kreese and Silver have that unbreakable war bond, but what is the one thing that could break a war bond is hurting your child.
That's my son. That's my son you're trying to kill now.
Yeah.
And again, I think if there is any path of redemption for Kreese, and this is another subject, it's Johnny. It's Johnny. Lawrence. Somebody, he's got to choose Cobra Kai or Johnny Lawrence, and he will choose Johnny. But I also don't think that's where we left on season 4, because we have at least 2 more seasons after that, and the story's got to play itself. So I don't think, I think you and I are on the right track as to where Robby's story, how he is redeemed and how he will eventually find peace. But I don't see that happening this year, because then where does he go from that?
No, but I do see Robby finding peace, because we're set up in the beginning, and just from a story perspective, if anything else, we are set up to root for him. And it's so well done in the sense that you start off disliking him. This is a regular pattern for writers to use, and it's a very strong formula, is to set you up not necessarily liking him, and then give you little inklings of like, oh, there's something good in there, and then show you how good it can be, show them falling, and then the harder you fall, the more people are going to root for your redemption. And I think that we're being perfectly set up for that. So if there's any character in Cobra Kai that's getting redeemed at this moment, it's Robby.
Yeah. And it's going to be a long journey, a slow burn, like you said, but it's going to be hard. And it's going to be hard to see, because we've been through that journey with him up till now. We know he's a good person. We're not going to turn around and be like, oh, you were an ass all along. No, he wasn't. We know he's a good person. He's been, even when he was a jerk, he was a good person, and we saw that. And instead of being angry at him, we're going to be heartbroken for him, because all along while he's saying and doing all these things, we're going to know this isn't you. This is not who you are. You are better than this. Come back to the person you are.
Yeah. We're almost set up that way with Tori too, but I have my doubts about her redemption. I feel like she could be the juxtaposition to that, of like someone else who's experiencing all the same things Robby is, but just can't get there. And
now she's just another,
it's not a Tori episode, but I do think she'll be the juxtaposition to Robby.
Yeah, she's just more fuel on the fire right now. And she hates Sam, and she's going to fuel that. She did it from their first interaction in season 3. Sam's just going to betray you. Sam never loved you. Sam's a liar. And just, all those feelings of betrayal, you were right all along, and just twist that right in them the whole time. And between that, you have something about a woman telling you that, like, I've been there, I know who you are. Trust me, she doesn't love you. She's going to leave you the second she finds someone better. Look, she's already Miguel. You were right all along. She still loves Miguel. Have that plus whatever Kreese and Terry are doing to him. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to see. And somehow, some way, at some time, he's going to have that redemption and that wake up call. But it's going to be a painful journey till we get there.
Yes. Well, I think that about wraps us up. Robby, we're looking for therapists for you as we speak. I'm Googling it. I'm exhausted. I can't imagine how Robby feels. Just talking about Robby is exhausting. It's such a powerful journey. My heart aches for him. I also think it's important to mention that I'm blown away by Tanner's acting. I can't imagine he's experienced half that in his life. And he nails it every time. So I believe him.
Without a doubt. Like I said, how you see different Robbys in the 3 seasons.
Yes.
Still one actor doing all that.
To see him go as dark as he's doing. And like we said, there's a lot of hate for Robby out there. There's also a lot of love and a lot of people like us who are rooting for him. And that is credit to the writing, to the acting, that you can create a character who can do those things, but also still be rooted for and be so complex that he has people who hate him, people who love him. Like that we just root for him. And I think the people that hate him would swing right back around if he redeems himself. I don't think there'd be a lot of hesitancy to root for him again. Like I think those people that hate him are more in the moment people, not looking at it in the whole.
Absolutely. And if we were having this conversation shortly after season 1 dropped, it would be the exact opposite. Everyone would be team Robby. Oh, Robby, he almost won. He was cheated. He's such a good person. Everyone was hating on Miguel. Oh, what happened to him? He was such a great kid. And then he turned into this Cobra Kai jerk. Now everyone loves Miguel. So you're right. And that's the beauty of the show. And that's the absolute brilliance of it, is these characters, you love them, you hate them, and they're just so complex and 3-dimensional. And there's just so much to them. And they have all these different sides.
Right.
I'm sure you talked about the same with Hawk and Eli, and Lord even knows what his journey is going to be in season 4 and beyond. But it's the same thing. No one is good, just good. No one is just evil. And unfortunately, we're just left at a certain point in time in between seasons. So all we know right now is where we were left at the end of season 3, which is a hard place to see him at.
Yeah, well, I know this was a really difficult conversation. So if anybody listening got through the whole thing and is feeling real down in the dumps and feeling really sad for Robby right now, perfect opportunity to go follow Cobra Kai Wisdom 2, because it's the second version of this account. I'm going to have all of that information linked in my description below, and go give him a follow. Go check out the memes. Everybody needs a laugh right now after listening to all of that, because Robby is a difficult character to think about, to go through those emotions with. So yeah, definitely if you're looking for a laugh, Cobra Kai Wisdom is the place to go. There are so many times where I almost pee myself laughing at your memes. Like,
And that's the goal there. If I can make you pee, if I can make anyone else pee, then I've done my job, and I can just go home. I'm done. Yeah, come join the fun. We have a lot of fun. Cobra Kai Wisdom 2 on Instagram, also Cobra Kai Wisdom on Twitter. And yeah, it just lets the time go by between the seasons. And there's no shortage of things to talk about. That's for sure.
Well, it's always a lot of fun talking to you. I'm so glad that you could come on. Like I predicted, you were the perfect person for this conversation. So much insight. And I'm so glad that I get to do this series with people who I consider friends and experts on the subject.
Well, thanks for having me, Toni. This was a blast.